I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our
Today
channel.
we're watching Dungeon Meshi Season 1, Episode 16. Last episode was great. We got to see Laios use magic, which was incredible, but a lot of interesting details went down within the verbiage used while teaching Laios and then after he performed the magic. Specifically, what could be a genius in the bloodline. And
Prodigy.
That being, I don't know. It just
there being something about maybe the Toden siblings. I mean, honestly, that's a question that we could have been asking from the very beginning, but then even more so through different episodes has that question kind of gotten more momentum, which is, are we telling a story where the protagonist was already almost prophetically significant and special? Or is this a story where someone, through adventures and through all the trials they go through, becomes special to this world and this universe? I feel like the jury's out on that one. I feel like last episode and then the line that we're talking about in terms of like the family line, is there something within the siblings family line that kind of makes them special?
Yeah.
I think that honestly that's really in the forefront of my brain going into the next episode.
It's interesting because it's not just like, oh, prodigy bloodline. It's more, I don't know, when we got the look of Laios hearing things and hearing people, that definitely was significant to us since we have everything with Fallon communicating with the dead. You know, Chilchuck got a talking to last episode. We also understand why he is a little adverse to learning magic himself.
Right.
And we got to see the cockatrice, which was cool.
The magic with Chilchuck was honestly a really great conversation. I feel like we learned a little bit more of the history of the world, but more so about elves, which I think we're kind of excited to get the elves more introduced to the story, especially because of the picture that other people of other races are kind of introducing this.
How many episodes are in this season?
I'm going to guess like 23, 24.
Do you think we see the elves' arrival by the end of the season? Because
it's
when we were
in the
first
outro.
Yeah, I know. That.
But also, have they arrived in the outro, or is that more like what they're currently up to?
Yeah.
We saw them on a ship, I believe, around the King of the Island conversation, like they were on their way. Possibly.
Yeah.
I think we will see them.
I don't know. When we see them in like the outro a little bit, it looks like they've entered a dungeon, but I don't know what to expect going forward.
Let's find out.
You ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. I'm all elf brain right now. It's all I can think about.
With that comment, that's something else I wanted to bring up in the intro, is how I originally thought that Senshi was the character that was more adverse and more against the idea of magic. But we kind of already got through that, you know, with using magic in ways that Senshi was okay with and showing that we still respect the dungeon. Chilchuck is coming out to be the character that actually has issues with magic.
It's interesting because, like, I wouldn't necessarily put him in the strict category of having issues. I think, like, for me as, like, a viewer, it allows me to have insight of other perspectives of why people feel the way that they do about certain types of magic.
There's good and there's bad of everything. Like, there would be good and there's bad magic.
Yeah.
He just seems to have a history of knowing maybe some of the darker sides of it and being wary of it.
The pleasure I get out of seeing two consistently good fitting intro songs, like the only thing I can compare it to easily is like Spy Family, like their method of having amazing intro songs that just fits cohesively. Nice.
Of course, he would be the character that could do that. So there's like markers almost. And it's not there. Oh, that's creepy.
綺麗さっぱり片付いてるな。
だがその壁のひびはレッドドラゴンが倒れた時に残ったもん。
そのひびも塞がりかけて。
Is
魔術師の目が来るぞ。
Can everybody else see it?
I feel like no one else saw it except them. Except Laios.
そこに。
It's like directly helping Laios.
The magician's eye?
Yeah, will be directly on you.
感覚や幻聴が。
He's sensitive.
それってあの小型竜身を隠さないと。
Oh, so it's like a smaller dragon that we saw in the sky last episode? It's already repaired! What?
これは。
また魔術の類か。
What? We can like camouflage into walls or go behind them? Or did we just fit in the crack?
Did we tell
Whoa.
everyone to hold their breath?
これは一体なんて魔法だ。
クリーナーか。
何？
迷宮内のゴミを掃除し、破壊された場所を修復する。
What?
Wait, what the?
見てくれ。
Is he gonna try to eat them? What do they look like?
見た目じゃ判別つかないぞ。
They're like little ants!
Oh.
小さい何かがうごめいてる。
すべてクリーナーだ。魔物じゃないし、害はない。
害はある。
They are harmful.
テントをよくかじるんだ。
Aww.
彼らが邪魔だと判断したものはすべて分解されてしまうからな。
Look at him sweeping them away.
迷宮内が傷つくと現れて、分
Wow.
解石で炎症や倒壊を防ぐんだ。そして周囲に散らかったゴミを。
They're so integral to the literal, like, integrity.
最後は欠けた場所を埋める。
But it's also like when you leave an area in a video game and then come right back immediately and everything's back to its former state before you ruined it all.
Mm-hmm.
ばい菌を排除する免疫組織ってとこかも。誰がばい菌だ？
それも魔術の仕業。
Like, they're germs. Oh, comparing them to germ. Good for last episode of this episode.
Great song.
I'm still so fascinated by the existence of the cleaners.
ではここらで一発あれをしておく。
That?
あ、そうだな。あれ
Yes.
しとこ。
あれ？
She thought it was the frog suit.
多分いないよ。
Oh,
実は結構気に入ってんだろ。
totally. Marcial loves that outfit.
食材が充実しすぎて何を作ったもん。
That's a privilege.
I wonder if Senshi would like going on Chopped.
3階で拾ったやつ？
コカトリスの肉。
Nice.
アドの実。
Last episode. And the mandrake.
そして
何それ？
コカトリスの卵。
Ooh.
最後に
It's weird seeing eggs being so, like, gooey instead of a hard shell.
It looked a little bit different than the basilisk's egg, I thought.
うまそう。
私が
Probably
石化し
bigger.
たままだったらこの料理に使われていた。
スプーンを皿に突き立ててみろ。
What?
ダンジョンクリーナーでできた。
What?
皿ごと食えるってことか。ありがとう戦士。
It's like a mac and cheese bread bowl.
蒸した鉄とレモンをマジカルに混ぜたような。
Amazing.
また幻聴と鼻血出るよ。
Yeah, they're really, like,
あ
dead.
現状なんなんだろ
町戻ったらすぐ医者行けよ。頭の。
う。医者？
They found us.
病気なのかこれ。
What the fuck?
みんなにも見えてるこれ。
The mom of the... Wait, what the...
俺たち攻撃を受けてる。
Why are we getting attacked by them?
From what Kabru said, probably.
なんだこりゃ。カエルの皮か。
Where's Shuro?
ただの兜飾りのようです。
Oh, they thought they were monsters.
を表すかどうか。一人試しに殺して。
Oh my god.
舞鶴。知り合いだ。
Copper's group should be glad that they didn't get killed because they might be monsters.
cool. I love how tired he looks.
He's not doing well.
年老坊ちゃんのこと
They don't know him by Shuro.
なんか随分大所帯だな。
Look at Kabru.
カブルあれって
はじめまして。ライオスさんですよね。
あいつらでしょ私たちのものを盗んだのどうするの
どうもしないよ。
はじゃあ何のためにこんなところまで
会ってみたかったんだ。
Interesting.
覚えていないか、こちらの勘違いか、そもそも宝自体がトラップだったか、その全部かも。
無駄足だったってこと？
まあまあ、もう少し時間をくれよ。彼らがここへどうやってたどり着いたのか、これから何をするつもりなのか、知りたいだろ。
じゃあ、
Kabru is so fascinating.
階層にいたのか。
にしてもシュローお前こんな好きあれが例のつてかよ
ただの身内だ。
Retainers.
腕だけは立つのでな。パーティーを抜けて悪かった。
Aw.
再び迷宮へ潜り、彼女を探す。
I mean, more people looking for her, right?
確実だと判断した。したらどうするつもりだったんだ。
Oh, reminds me of Chilchuk's
この4
conversation.
人でレッドドラゴンも倒したんだから
レッドドラゴン。
How's he gonna feel hearing what happened to Fallon?
それで彼女は
Oh my god.
Exhaustion.
お前もこのやつれ方を見て察しろよ
Yeah, Chilchuk mentioned his weight loss.
は取った方がいいよ。睡眠をとって食事をしたら、生き物ってのはようやくやりたいことができるようになるんだ。その間に今までのことを話すよ。
Oh, I love Laios.
わかった。
This is such a good episode.
舞鶴。
Can we get a collab?
食事だ支度を
She's not gonna want to collab.
水を汲んでこいはいお前たちは米を炊く用意を
They both have these cute
お
little
前は
double freckles.
坊ちゃんをお守りせよ飯に変なものが混ざると困る
ではお会いし
I want something strange mixed in.
任せたぞドワーフや
I feel like you need to put some respect on Senshi's name.
大人数が一箇所に集まるのはあまり良くない。
おドワーフカエル女魔術を使える者はここで結界を張っている
軽く説明するよ。
支えます。
ありがとう。
And Kabru is going with.
この場合より一人にさせたら危険なのは
Look at how he was looking at him. Chilchuk's trying to think of like which group to like protect the balance of.
I'm so interested in what Kabru's reaction to everything is gonna be as well, you know? Not just Shuro's.
食後は風呂に入っていただかないと
ここで
さあ、シロ、ここに座って。
いいから何があったのか教えてくれ。
What about that little dragon, the eye of the
俺
magician?
たちは
要点だけ頼む。
レッドドラゴンを倒して、ファリンを回収し蘇生し
The
た。
lions everywhere.
帰りしな狂乱の魔術師に襲われて。
Mm-hmm.
でも、ここでシロに会えてよかった。力を貸してくれないか。
質問いいですか。狂乱の魔術師ってこの迷宮を作ったという存在ですよね。噂や存在はささやかれるものの、実際に見て戻った人間はいない。なぜ狂乱の魔術師だと？そこからどうやってその場を免れたんですか？
それはマルシル、仲間の魔術師が頑張ってくれたんだ。
Are you gonna get into specifics? Oh shit!
魔術は専門外でよく。
ですか。
Can he tell that he's hiding something?
一ついいか。
Kabru's observant. Is he gonna say, I want to marry your sister?
なぜレンガをかじっていたんだ。
クリーナーでできた壁をかじってたんだよ。俺たち食料も何もかも置いてきただろ。だから急いで迷宮へ潜るため魔物を食べながらここまで来たんだ。
それ。
めっちゃ
面白いですね。今までで一番美味しかったものは何ですか？
Oh, yes, good question.
悩むな。ケルピー、動く鎧。いや、やっぱレッドドラゴンかな。
You ate the red dragon that ate your sister?
鎧って可食部あります？
いい質問するね。
Mollusks.
あれは実は殻をまとった軟体生物で。クリーナーのケンスケ食ってる。
はあ、お願いします。マ まずい。本当に持ってくるぞ。
Yeah, he will.
パリンを蘇生して最後に見た時は無事だったのか。そんな場所は大抵多くの根城だ。
ああ、多くなら心配いらない。
We're friends with them.
どんな味でした？
違う違う。いろいろあって今は協力関係にあるんだ。
Oh, do you think Shuro's like, you guys have done so much?
冒険者の義務なんだけどな。
そこに連れ去られたのかもしれない。
連れ去られた？なぜ？
少し二人で話したいんだけど。
じゃあ僕は外しますよ。
How did we exactly revive Fallon?
で、
ただ腹が膨れればいいものではない。
話がわかるな、ドワーフ。おまけに食も細く、周りを不安にさせてな。だがどんな時もこの舞鶴が作ったものだけはよく食べた。わがままを言ったのは後にも先にも今回きり。
頼む、舞鶴。助けたい人がいるんだ。力を貸してくれ。
まさか修行中に北方女に心を奪われようとは。
保存食があるのなら手間をかけ調理する必要はない。なぜお前の作ったものだけはよく食べた？そこに何が入っていたのかわしにはわかるぞ。愛情というやつだ。
うまいことを言ったつもりか？
Love the song.
よし、こんなものか。完成じゃ。
An
An
Eastern meal.
Eastern meal.
さて、温かいうちに召し上がっていただかなくては。
Is he not gonna want to
お前たち
eat after what he hears?
内密の話があるとかで。
坊ちゃん、入りますよ。坊ちゃん、一体何が？
Good catch, Senshi.
すみません、僕たちは何も。
But he knows because he was listening.
黒魔術を使って。
理由や程度の差は関係ない。すべて大罪人だ。西のエルフたちに知られれば彼女がどんな目に遭うか。
そして君はこのことを決して話したりはしない。だろ？分かってくれしろ。
Holy shit.
黒魔術持ったよりヤバいのが出てきたな。
He's so fascinated.
Fallon?
Is Fallon the little
What's she
dragon?
connected to?
The little dragon. It's Fallon.
I don't know.
What the fuck?
It's like a chimera.
It's almost like she's coming out of like the. I don't even know.
There were feathers.
Yeah, there were definitely feathers.
Definitely. Okay, that was episode 16 of Dungeon Meshi. You know, I want to talk about the dungeon cleaners. I do. But we'll get there. Because this is one of the most exciting episodes, I feel like, of the show so far. We've heard so much about Shuro, and we've seen him on screen a little bit. But having him interact with the rest of the group in this way means so much to me. Like, and just seeing Laios, like, obviously Laios doesn't think that this cat person is overhearing the conversation. I don't think. But to trust information as sensitive as something that can get you killed from the Western elves with anybody else, and it being Shuro, is so special.
Mm-hmm. It makes you wonder, is it because Laios himself feels a trust in someone that was once his comrade, or is it because he believes Shuro has the right to know as someone who wanted to marry his sister, now that he's privy to that information? Or that Fallon would want him to know, what happened
I think
to
it's
her.
all of those things combined. It's just like how Laios saw Shuro in that connection. Shuro apologized to Laios and felt awful about leaving the group, and Laios is like, no, dude, you had to do that. Like, I totally
also,
understand.
Like, more people looking for her. That's great.
And when we got Laios' conversation with Shuro and Kabru about, like, oh, well, you had an interaction with the lunatic mage, how did you escape? And Laios was like, oh, I'm not good at magic, our mage did something. You had brought up, like, oh, okay, like, Laios is like holding back that information. And in the moment, I'm like, I don't know if Laios is holding back the information or he
actually doesn't know.
or is being like a little like middle ground, but with asking for alone time with Shuro to tell him about the dark magic. Oh my god.
I feel like Laios is one of those characters where it's always a trick, because you think, okay, you think you understand the intelligence level, the IQ, the amount of awareness, whatever, of this character, and that other characters in the show might feel like they also understand, like, oh, Laios is this amount of stupid or silly and this amount of smart and aware. And then he kind of he plays with us. He plays tricks on us, because sometimes I'm like, oh, he's not thinking deeper about this, but then he is. And then other times I'm like, well, he has to notice this, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
And so he's definitely intriguing.
So where do you think Shuro's response is coming from here? Like, it can be easily multifaceted in the sense of like, okay, how dare you do this, because you're going to inevitably, get Fallon killed if people figure it out. Oh, well, she was already dead. This is the only way to bring her back. Oh, how would you do this? Now you and your group is all compromised and you guys are going to die. Why the fuck would you do that? Or the justice of like, why the fuck would you ever just like surface level fuck with dark magic? Or is it a step further and be like, by telling me this, you're involving all of us, and myself included, within potential punishment of any involvement within black magic?
Okay, my read, that's really great, like, breakdown of what the choices could be. I don't view... Okay, think about a line that was said in this episode about Shuro as a person and as a young master.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first selfish request he has ever made.
Yeah.
And if I think about that feeding into, like, kind of the character info about him, I can guess that he does not think of himself first. I do not think that he would be lumping himself in here. I think it's both, how dare you put a target on Fallon's back, where now if she's found, like, by the elves, they're going to want to take her and do something with her, kill her. But also, this entire group that I cared so much to apologize to, and I wanted to join your family by marrying your sister. Now all of you have targets on your back because you've played with black magic.
Yeah.
I think it's those two things. I don't think he's viewing... I like the idea of bringing up, okay, well, yeah, if you think about it, in actuality, once you start telling more people, and those people are then complicit to holding the information back from, like, maybe, like, higher-ups, then they, in their complacency, they could then have done something illegal.
Yeah.
So they could be in trouble too.
Or you couldn't even plead innocence. Like plead innocence. Like, it's like, oh yeah, you're telling me you didn't do it, but you're coming out of the dungeon at the same time as the people who did.
At the same time, like, yeah, and you know how it happened. And you
used to be teamed up together.
Party with them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't think in this moment he's thinking about himself at all.
I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think this episode felt like so much did happen. I didn't even feel like so much happened, because I really believe that so much did happen. And I can take that from just the viewing experience alone, not even just trying to break down what happened, but just in how I felt in viewing it. I kept being like, oh, whoa, this, and wanting to, like, be like, oh, I want to talk about that. But then right as soon as I thought of something I wanted to talk about, or like saw something of note, something else happened that I was like, now my attention is now focused on something completely different that is incredibly significant.
It's very exciting, because like we're used to within the show going like an A or B plot, like, and that's it, and that's good. But we've ventured elsewhere within Shuro and within Kabru's group, and now all of these like forefronts are coming to a head where like the pace is kind of amped up like crazy. Because I cannot express to you, Anna, how fascinated I am with Kabru. Like, he was a star this episode for me, and I can't explain it with words. I loved his curiosity. I loved his, like, politeness and what that means, like him conversing with Laios about dungeon food, and then Laios offering up like, oh, if you ever want to try it, and his response being like, holy shit, he actually means it. Like, and his read on Laios and what that looked like in the conversation with Rim, and that entire like interaction being broken down to like, okay, well, either he doesn't remember us, the treasure was a trap in the first place, a mix of everything together. Like, I loved everything about Kabru this episode.
I think Kabru feels both like exactly the character trope of ideal adventurer that is seemingly wanting to follow the rules and be, you know, relatively safe still, but doing what he's supposed to do as an adventurer. He even brings up in this episode, like, wait, that means Laios isn't doing what we're supposed to be doing, which is like fighting the orcs. Instead, he's befriending them. And so we can think of him as that kind of ideal, what the king of the island wants from the adventurers that are going down here. But we can also think of him, I think, somewhat of like an insert for the viewer. Because I feel like sometimes viewers can come into something with almost like wanting to a little more righteous in their views. They're like, yeah, why isn't he doing this thing that's like perfect? What's up with Laios? Like, he isn't that like that character trope of being the ideal adventurer. And Kabru is here to kind of like voice any opinions or things that we notice about Laios that we're intrigued by, that we're like, okay, then why do we think that he is the protagonist and main character of this story? How does the world view him? We're getting that all through Kabru. It's almost like he's holding our hand through this, and we're looking through his eyes.
Like, odds have been against our group from the start, from the decision of going back into the dungeons with the amount of resources that we had. But if you're looking at an intelligent dungeon master, like the lunatic mage, if you're creating a dungeon and you are intelligent and you are trying to keep a certain type of people out or adventurer out, you are going to manufacture it in a way that you would hope would do the best job possible at, you know, stopping them in their tracks, depriving them of their resources. Now you have a group like Laios' group that involves Senshi coming into the dungeon that is the complete antithesis of what the dungeon would be created to fend off, maybe. That's the exact type of group that would be able to succeed the most, because it's handling the dungeon in such an unique way.
Out of the box thinkers.
Yeah. Oh, these terrifying monsters that are going to scare the shit out of you? No, we're going to eat them, you know? And like the fascination with that and the curiosity with that is distilled with like just purity to a sense, that it's awesome to see somebody like Kabru's, you know?
I think one of my favorite parts of Kabru's reaction to Laios and finally getting, like, they always say don't meet your heroes, but like he doesn't think of Laios as his hero.
No.
So he literally acts exactly how we should have guessed he would act, which is he is taking this whole thing in. He is using this as this wild entertainment. He's getting more information. He's incredibly interested to hear anything and everything that Laios has to say and read all of the facial expressions and movements and hear how this man thinks. And I don't know if it's fully because he wants to feel vindicated and proven right in his own current point of view about this guy shouldn't be the one that defeats the lunatic mage because of his indifference. You know, I don't know if it's fully that he wants to be proven right, and that's why he's almost so excitable to be fed all this new information up close and personal. I think it's that he's like actually just someone who, I feel like he's in the moment. I feel like he's in the moment.
I feel like he's curious, because if the whole narrative of him trying to prove his point and prove what his, you know, preconceived notion was, he wouldn't be giving outs to Laios preemptively like, we could have been wrong. You don't do that if you're trying to prove your own notion right. You're being met with the fact like, oh shit, my notion might be wrong and these are the reasons why. Let's continue the conversation and keep being polite and in the moment and just learn as much as I can and be here. It's
Also,
so cool.
like, Kabru actually letting them have a private conversation. Kabru had no idea, in my opinion, that the cat, possible kobold creature person was listening in. In my opinion, did not know that that character was listening in on Shuro and Laios' conversation. I think that is just a testament to Kabru's character. Like, yes, he wants to know everything about Laios and watch Laios, but he's not the type that's gonna steal that information. He's not gonna. As we have them being so like, oh my god, they stole food from us. Kabru is trying to live to a certain standard. Obviously, when we've seen him do things to other people, it's kind of they kind of asked for it. They were bad people. The corpse retrievers, that fight with them deserved that their bodies were then dumped into the water. But he doesn't have a complete read and all of the evidence to come up with a conclusion on being able to weigh how good of a person he thinks these people are. And I think that really fits him, that he would have given genuine respect to to Laios asking for a private conversation.
I love everything about Shuro. One of the things that I'm so happy was just expanded upon or just happened again this episode is Laios seeing the dead or ghosts seemingly and being warned the magician's eye will be upon you. Like, I am so happy that this is like developed within the story, and I want to know, like, what are their feelings? That's what I want to know, because it seems like the lunatic mage has nothing but his perception of their intention in mind, and it seems like that is not at all what they want, and that isn't. What do they want? What do they want?
The lunatic mage is just like, well, obviously they would want this. We were so happy back then,
We
Prince
have
Delgal, amazing.
We have Fallon reiterating Delgal because of the mission from the lunatic mage. We have Delgal seemingly being the person who climbed out of the ground, right? Like,
who's probably like dead.
Do you think
gone.
Delgal's mission would be this, like, he would have gotten his mission from communication with his citizens, with his, like...
A true ruler should know how their people feel.
Like, let them rest type shit, And,
I mean, that could be him wanting them to rest, could be informed from his own dissatisfaction with the state of being this ghost that soul is tied to this dungeon. Or it could be literally, from being, like, a really effective and good ruler and knowing how the people under his rule feel.
Do we know if Delgal's sigil was the lion? Like, we see it everywhere, right? Like the lion griffin type thing. Like, we have it in the room with Shuro earlier in the episode. We come to it where Chilchuck tells us to go right after
the statues.
It. Yeah.
I would assume.
Because that could be a pretty cool, like, thematic through line with King Delgal's desires, or, like, where he is within the dungeon. Obviously, he isn't in the dungeon, but, thematically, it could be a cool, like, stepping stone to work its way back through Laios' travels.
I think seeing the dead now through Laios being able to see them is definitely helpful.
Yeah.
Because obviously it seems like they work as good warnings. He was able to be warned about the eye of the magician with enough time for Marcial to think about the cleaners, to then think about the fact that the cleaners are currently working on this wall, therefore it's still soft enough for us to hide. Like, that's a really great amount of, like, time for them to, like, hear this information and put getting away into an effect.
The cleaners are so cool. Like, it's...
They don't make sense to me. Well, they make sense to me. Like, I understand the description. It's more like, I would have never imagined their existence.
It's the closest bridge from, like, D&D, like, dungeon party, like, dungeon crawler mixed. Like, it's not there, but it reminds me of, like, sci-fi, like, technology, data, like, I don't know. It's like it's such a cool concept, and that it's a living organism. Like, I had said it during the reaction. I don't know if you heard me, but it's like when you're playing a game and you've
I heard you.
Yeah, completed an area or need to do more or need to, like, grind more, so you leave and then come back and everything's reset.
Right. Like right now I'm playing Romancing Saga 3.
Uh-huh.
And if you like actually fully leave the dungeon and you go back in, all the monsters are there again and you have to fight all of them. Everything's back to the way it was. And oftentimes that is the way in video games. And I feel like that has to be the inspiration. The idea that like once you walk away from an area, it then magically, pristinely comes back the way that it was. Like it. I feel like someone had to have thought of it through that lens initially.
Are they the source of like infinite resources? Like what can't they do?
Okay? So here's a fun.
I'm gonna pull up while you're talking.
Here's a fun kind of episode 15 to episode 16 thread. So when we talk about the cleaners in this episode, I believe we noted that they were not monsters. So there's something that's incredibly known about this dungeon, but very different than anything that we've come across. And like you said you just said this word, like almost like an infinite kind of thing, that they're just forever here to replenish and rebuild. And it takes me back to episode 15 with learning that Marcille, this magic, is pulling from another dimension that has infinite resources. Did the cleaners come from that? You know, if the magic that created this dungeon and created this locking the body and the soul here and not being able to die, if that is a black magic, if the source of that is from another dimension, the source of that magic, what if you could have brought some other things through? Like, it takes me back to the first episode when we're like, did these monsters evolve from other things? Where did they come from?
It seems as if the cleaners don't have that same sense of infinity, that their restoration comes directly from what they ate and absorbed, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like last episode in the dimension of infinity kind of conversation, if that were to exist within this world, I wouldn't imagine that it would need to eat anything, you know?
Right, but like I had brought up after last episode, what if it's just our preconceived belief that it is actually infinite?
Yeah, true. That's fair. God, I wonder if it's like if the cleaners are completely programmed by the lunatic mage, or they operate off of a sense of like...
It's their duty?
Yeah, but what do you deem like to restore, you know? Like it feels like after you make a brick wall, you'd have to be like save state. That's what I want it to look like every time it's damaged.
Yeah, they have to know what it looks like.
Interesting.
And know what finished for this specific thing would be.
Yeah.
Is there an intelligence there, or is there just
guidance,
habit,
or
is there guidance, or is it just that this is a routine that they just stick to and they do every single time the same way?
I wanted to read a couple lines from Chilchuck's analysis about the patterns within the dungeon, if that's cool. Okay. One path gets blocked and another one opens up. It's basically this on repeat. The number of doors, furniture, and types of buildings stay the same. A house never transforms into a graveyard. The walls move in a clockwise spiral at regular intervals. The positions of the stone the statues and the directions,
are fixed.
It's based on all that and more, and we get the lion again, or the griffin. And then we show up to where, you know, the street where everything went down. It does feel like it's more of like a save state. Like when the lunatic mage had a specific vision of what everything looked like, and that will be what everything returns to, but also how the maze or the dungeon will be mixed up. It's like just a pattern, a flat out like a routine, a program, you know?
Which takes me back to episode 15 with the idea that the dungeon was written.
Yeah.
So where would that information have come from? It would have come from the lunatic mage in writing it. Something that was cool to me once we got introduced to the cleaners, I forgot about this when we were talking about them, is we were equating the dungeon to a magical digestion system.
Yeah.
And that we were almost saying that our characters and the adventurers are the germs that are within it. And if you think about it through the lens of like, this was written and created by the lunatic mage, and he views them as usurpers. He views everyone that comes in here as infiltrators. Obviously so, if you think about him almost creating this living body that these germs are coming into.
Yeah.
I thought that way of thinking was really cool, and an awesome episode 15 to episode 16, with episode 15 having both the hay fever and the mana sickness, and then starting this episode with the mana sickness, then getting into the germs, which almost brings back the hay fever.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, so beautiful. Thank you for that. And then the episode went wild and crazy because Shuro and Kabru came into it, and my brain exploded a little bit.
If the elves of the West find out, who knows what will happen to her? Like,
they probably wouldn't kill her. I think that they would like lock her up and like try to study her and experiment.
I wonder if, like, am I supposed to get that, like, oh yeah, the Western elves are like completely against black magic? If that's the case, I wonder if they utilize it in any way, and where Marcial's, foundation came from.
Yeah, but where did she find the resource, the book, the whatever, to learn what she has learned? I think that something else you can bring up is the idea that, like, this blueprint, like, that Tansu had brought up for this spell is something that he wants someone like Laios to find before the elves get their hands on it.
Yeah.
Something that was originally maybe the elves that they do not have anymore. Yeah, so it's like, how do the elves actually feel about black magic, dark magic? Is it something that they want to almost, you could think of it like it's something they want to have control of, like they make the rules about it. It's their magic system. It was one of their spells that they get to decide, yes, it's forbidden, but like maybe we can make some special cases for it, and they don't want other people to have access to it, or
they've lost it to time and are trying to get it back.
Study it, and they want to get it back. They want to maybe utilize it for their own means.
See, I only have one thing left, and
I have one thing left.
Okay, what's yours?
I had written down really quick, you had made a comment about how this episode didn't really feel like it was an A plot, B plot as much as like some of the previous episodes, in tandem with me being like, this episode was like non-stop me being like, oh my god, what? I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that.
A and B plot is not the right term for it.
It's not the right.
The gist.
They segue nice and they like tie in together. So I was trying to think of it in that similar way of, say, to like episode 15, where we went in a kind of a sickness was one of the forefront ideas and themes of the episode. I was like, what is it for this episode?
Yeah.
And then it's like, I was thinking about the cleaners being the first thing we get introduced to, and then how we end the episode off with basically dumping all of the mess. We're spilling everything that has been done. Everyone is now privy to this information that is basically a mess. A thing that can get a bunch of people in trouble and a bunch of people killed, that is forbidden, taboo, illegal.
Yeah.
And how the hell do we clean up this mess? With saving Fallon, not letting the elves find out about this, like, how do we get out of this? Who knows? How can we clean this up?
I thought you were going to make the connection with the cleaners and be like, they'd be so pissed off if they looked at Fallon's current state. That's not how Fallon used to be.
That's not how, yeah.
But my last thing in regards to Fallon, I don't want Shuro to have to face what Fallon is right now. I don't want him to have to be there. But he's gonna be. I know it. I'm gonna be sad.
But we need him to be there because that's the most intriguing thing you could do, is put the man that's in love with her and wanted to marry her in front of her new form.
Yep. Alright, that's all I have you.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.